All right, let's dive right in. Something massive is happening across the global energy landscape. The old rules are breaking down, and a whole new kind of power is emerging, one that's built on just colossal scale.
So what does that mean? Well, it means the era of the small, scrappy player is pretty much over. We are talking about the rise of giants. We're stepping into the age of the energy superstate. But what is that exactly?
Okay, so think of it like this. These are players so huge, so integrated, that they can literally move global markets. They're big enough to ride out just about any geopolitical storm. It's a strategy where being massive isn't just a benefit, it's your armor.
So how do we get our heads around this? We're going to connect the dots on a few key stories. We'll start right here in the U.S. shale fields, then we'll jump over to see what state-owned giants are doing globally. We'll look at America's big infrastructure play, and then try to untangle the messy geopolitics of it all. And it all leads to this one forecast that, honestly, explains the whole game. When you put all these pieces together, you start to see a really clear picture of a new world order in energy. And in this new world, one thing matters above all else: scale. So our first piece of the puzzle starts in the U.S. shale patch. And what's happening there is, frankly, a radical new phase. We're talking about the end game. $3.1 billion. That's the price of just one recent deal in the U.S. shale patch. But, the number itself, that's not the real story here. What this signals is a total shift in strategy. The shale revolution is moving into a whole new chapter: consolidation.
Yeah, this is basically the end of the road for that old wildcatter model, the whole growth at all costs mentality. The new playbook, it's all about the manufacturing model. And you should literally think of it like a factory floor. The goal isn't just to grow anymore. It's about relentless efficiency, about squeezing every penny and maximizing that cash flow. And that kind of efficiency, it only comes with massive scale. And look, this obsession with scale, it is absolutely not just a US thing. While American companies are busy merging and consolidating at home, you've got these state-owned energy giants looking overseas with some seriously big global ambitions.
Yeah, take this deal, for example. This is huge. You have a state-owned giant from the Middle East trying to buy a major energy company in a really stable country like Australia. See, this isn't just about snapping up more oil and gas reserves anymore. It's a whole new ballgame. Okay, so what's their playbook? It's actually pretty straightforward, but incredibly powerful. Step 1, deploy your massive sovereign wealth. Step 2, go out and acquire strategic assets in politically stable parts of the world. And step 3, use those assets to control entire global supply chains, especially for something as critical as LNG. This is a long-term play for serious global influence. Okay, but America's playing a slightly different game. While other big players are out there buying up assets all over the world, the U.S. strategy is focused on building. We're talking massive, long-term infrastructure projects designed to lock in American influence for decades to come. Just look at this. The key phrase here is a 20-year deal. I mean, this is anything but a short-term bet. This huge expansion of the Port Arthur LNG facility in Texas, it's all about creating facts on the ground, building something so permanent it will secure America's spot at the top of the energy world for a very, very long time. So this right here, this is really America's cornerstone strategy. See, when you control the world's most advanced LNG export hubs, you're not just selling gas. You're locking in customers for decades. You're making the U.S. an absolutely indispensable supplier to allies in Europe and Asia. And maybe most importantly, you're creating some serious geopolitical leverage that will last for a generation. Right? But this new energy map, it's not simple at all. In fact, for a lot of other countries, it creates this incredibly difficult balancing act. It's forcing them to make some really tough choices. Just take India's dilemma, for example. I mean, look at these numbers. They saved an estimated $17 billion by buying discounted Russian oil. For their energy security, that's a huge win. The problem, it puts them at odds with U.S. foreign policy, and that could risk a potential $37 billion hit from tariffs. There's just no easy answer here. It's a direct clash between what you need for your economy and who your key trade partners are. And just to throw another wrench in the works, you have reports that an American supermajor, ExxonMobil, was holding talks about possibly getting back into a major project in Russia. It just goes to show you how tangled these global interests are. corporate strategy and national policy, they don't always point in the same direction. So why? Why is everyone, from the US shale producers to the giant national oil companies, making these absolutely colossal bets on getting bigger? Well, this last piece of the puzzle, it explains everything. Okay, here's the justification. This is an internal forecast from ExxonMobil, and it projects that even in the year 2050, oil and gas will still make up 55% of the world's entire energy supply. Now think about that. In a world talking nonstop about the energy transition, that is a profoundly defiant forecast, and it creates a huge conflict.
And this conflict, this massive disconnect between that forecast and public policy, it actually has a name. It's called the Great Emissions Gap. On one side, you have the industry's outlook, this pragmatic, you might say, view that demand for fossil fuels is going to stay strong. And on the other side, you have these incredibly ambitious climate targets set by governments and the UN. The industry is essentially placing a massive bet that when push comes to shove, the world is going to choose affordable, reliable energy over those targets. And there you have it. That's the ultimate rationale. If you truly believe that fossil fuels are going to dominate for decades, then building these giant, efficient, super resilient energy systems, these superstates, isn't just a good idea, it's the only logical strategy for the future. Okay, so let's put all the pieces back on the table. You've got US shale consolidating to become a hyper-efficient machine. You have state-owned companies buying up strategic assets around the globe. You have American infrastructure locking in its allies for decades. You have other major powers stuck making these incredibly difficult choices. And underneath it all, you have this long-term forecast that says fossil fuels aren't going anywhere. These are the pillars propping up the rise of the energy superstate.
At the end of the day, the core belief driving this whole thing is actually pretty simple. In a world that feels more and more volatile, the biggest and most efficient players are betting that scale isn't just an advantage anymore. They're betting it's the only real security you can have.
And that leaves us with a really critical question, doesn't it? As we look toward the decades ahead, in this new era, is becoming a superstate the only way to win, or is there another path forward? The answer to that is probably going to define the future of global power.